In 1968, the motorcycle world was about to get turned on its head, and nobody saw it coming from a company known for small, sensible bikes. This is the story of how a handful of engineers, in less than a year, didn't just build a new motorcycle, they invented the superbike. It's hard to overstate just how significant the Honda CB750 was. Before it, high-performance motorcycling was a very different world, a realm ruled by raw, charismatic, and often cranky machines that demanded as much from their owners in weekend maintenance as they delivered in thrills. The CB750 wasn't just another motorcycle, it was the machine that created a category and ended the dominance of an entire nation's industry. It drew a line in the sand, dividing motorcycling history into two distinct eras, before the CB750 and after. In this video, we cover how a small, dedicated team, driven by an audacious vision, built the most sophisticated production bike the world had ever seen, and, in doing so, changed motorcycling forever. To truly grasp the earthquake that was the Honda CB750, you have to understand the landscape it completely shattered. The late 1960s were the domain of the British giants. Brands like Triumph, Norton, and BSA were the undisputed kings of the bike world. Their powerful parallel twin engines offered thrilling performance and a visceral, soul-stirring character that riders craved. A Triumph Bonneville or a Norton Commando wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement. It was a symbol of freedom and rebellion, with a soundtrack of thundering exhaust and mechanical grit. They were fast, they were beautiful, and for a time, they were the absolute pinnacle of performance. But this pinnacle was a shaky one. For all their charisma, these British bikes were artifacts of an older engineering philosophy. To put it bluntly, they were notoriously unreliable. Oil leaks were so common, they were considered a feature, not a flaw, a way of knowing you still had oil in the engine. Electrics, often from the infamous Lucas brand, were a constant source of anxiety, earning the nickname Prince of Darkness for their tendency to fail at the most inconvenient moments. Starting one was a physical ritual, a dance of tickling carburetors and delivering a full-blooded kick to a stubborn starter lever. A process that could either reward you with a magnificent roar or leave you sweating and defeated on the side of the road. These bikes demanded a committed owner, someone willing to spend their weekends armed with spanners, constantly tightening, adjusting, and tuning. The drum brakes were adequate in the dry but faded alarmingly with hard use and were notoriously weak in the rain. The engines vibrated, sometimes with enough intensity to numb a rider's hands and feet and to shake parts loose over time. This was the accepted trade-off. If you wanted the fastest, you accepted the frustration. The industry, particularly in Britain, had become complacent, convinced that this is what riders wanted: character, even if that character came with a lot of baggage. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a different kind of motorcycle industry was blossoming. In Japan, Honda had already built a global empire on small, practical, and impeccably reliable machines. Bikes like the Honda Cub had put millions on two wheels, offering dependable, efficient transportation for the masses. Honda was a synonym for quality, but not for high performance. Their biggest bike, the CB450 Black Bomber, was a technical marvel with its double overhead twin cam, but it struggled to win over American riders conditioned to believe that bigger is better. The perception was clear. Japanese bikes were sensible commuters. The bigger, faster, exciting bikes came from Britain. The market was divided. You could have performance, or you could have reliability. You could have excitement, or you could have ease of use. You couldn't have it all. The very idea that a single bike could offer the speed of a British twin, the smoothness of a luxury car, and the dependability of a Swiss watch, all at a price you could actually afford, seemed like pure fantasy. The stage was set for a revolution. The world just didn't know it yet. If this story of overnight engineering brilliance is firing on all cylinders for you, reach down and tap that like. Then roll onto the subscribe button so you don't miss the next chapter. Because in the next few minutes, the quiet feedback from a few US showrooms will detonate into the one-year death race that created the superbike. Stay with us. The challenge from America starts now. The seeds of this revolution were sown not in a high-tech lab in Japan, but in feedback from showrooms across the United States. The American market was, and still is, the most important battleground for motorcycle manufacturers, a land of wide open spaces, long highways, and a deep-seated hunger for power. In 1967, Honda sent Yoshiro Harada, project leader for the CB450, on a tour of the US to get dealers to push the 450 Twin harder. But the dealers pushed back with a simple, powerful message. Your bikes are great, but they're not big enough. American riders want more. More displacement, more power, more presence. This was reinforced by an anecdote from Soichiro Honda himself. During a trip to Europe, he saw a large police officer on what he assumed was a small motorcycle. He was shocked to realize it was a Triumph 750. The bike wasn't small, the rider was just that much bigger than the Japanese test riders Honda was used to. It was a crucial realization. To conquer the world, Honda had to build bikes for global tastes and statures. Back in Japan, this message found a receptive audience. Soichiro Honda, a relentless innovator, was driven to prove Honda's engineering superiority on the world stage. He'd already taken on the giants in Grand Prix racing and won, building a global reputation for technological prowess. Now, it was time to pour that racing DNA into a production motorcycle that would leave no doubt about who built the best machines in the world. In February 1968, Project 300 was officially approved. A small dedicated team of just 20 people was assembled. The mission was audacious, almost impossible: create a large displacement, high-performance motorcycle, the likes of which the world had never seen, and do it in less than a year. Leading the Skunkworks team was Yoshiro Harada. Armed with the feedback from America, he was convinced that 750 cubic centimeters was the magic number, the same class as their key rivals, the BSA Rocket 3 and Triumph Trident triples. The engine's design fell to a brilliant young engineer named Tadashi Kume. Inspired by Honda's multi-cylinder Grand Prix racers, Kume insisted on 4 cylinders. This was a radical choice. 4-cylinder engines were for exotic, hand-built race bikes, not affordable, mainstream machines. But Kume argued it was the only way to get the trifecta of high horsepower, exceptional smoothness, and unwavering reliability. The chassis was entrusted to Shinichi Hattori, tasked with building a frame that could handle it all. The team's mandate was brutally simple: build the best, fastest, most sophisticated motorcycle in the world. The clock was ticking. The pressure was immense. They weren't just aiming to compete with the British, they were aiming to make them obsolete. What Harada and Kume's team accomplished in the following months was nothing short of industrial magic. They didn't just meet the deadline, they systematically engineered solutions to every problem that plagued big bikes of the era, creating a package so advanced it felt like it had arrived from another planet. The heart of the beast was its transverse-mounted 736 cubic centimeter inline-four engine, a direct transplant of technology from the racetrack to the street. While British twins had torque, they also had bone-jarring vibration. A 4-cylinder engine is inherently smoother, its smaller pistons and firing order canceling out vibrations to produce a turbine-like hum instead of a paint shaker rattle. For riders used to having their fillings vibrated loose, the smoothness of the CB750 was a revelation. This engine was a masterpiece of reliability. Honda used its Grand Prix experience to create a single overhead camshaft design. Far more advanced than the pushrod systems in most British and American bikes, its robust one-piece crankshaft spun in plain bearings, a stark contrast to the complex cranks of its rivals. The crankcase was split horizontally, designed from the ground up for quality, durability, and mass production. And it made power. The engine produced a claimed 67 horsepower, propelling the bike to a top speed of 125 miles per hour, a staggering figure for 1969. All that power was delivered through a slick, 5-speed gearbox, another premium feature. The final package was fed by 4 Keihin carburetors, giving the bike its iconic 4x4 exhaust system, a visual and audible declaration of its superiority. It didn't make the lumpy thud of a twin, but a sophisticated rising wail that sounded like nothing else on the road. But the engine was only half the story. If you're going to build the fastest bike in the world, you'd better make sure it can stop. Chassis engineer Shinichi Hattori made another revolutionary decision. While a few limited production European models had featured discs, The CB750 would be the first mainstream, mass-produced motorcycle to feature a hydraulic front disc brake. This was a quantum leap in safety and performance for an affordable motorcycle. The single disc, clamped by a Nissan caliper, provided powerful, consistent, and fade-free stopping power that no drum brake could ever hope to match. Then, there was the feature that did more to democratize motorcycling than any other: the electric starter. In 1969, riding a big bike meant you had to be able to kick-start it. The CB750 came with a push-button electric starter as standard equipment. That simple convenience made the bike accessible to a whole new world of riders intimidated by the physical demands of traditional big bikes. When you put it all together, the package was undeniable. An engine with the power of a race bike and the smoothness of a sewing machine. Brakes that actually worked every time. An electric starter, a 5-speed transmission. And perhaps most miraculously of all, it didn't leak oil. Honda had built a motorcycle that demanded nothing of its owner but gas and occasional maintenance. It wasn't just a new model. As Cycle magazine would later write, it was the most sophisticated production bike ever. October 26, 1968, the 15th Tokyo Motor Show. The air was buzzing. Triumph and BSA were about to launch their 750 cubic centimeter triples. Kawasaki was secretly deep in development of its own 750 cubic centimeter four-cylinder, codenamed New York Steak, believing they were ahead of the game. Then, Honda pulled the covers off the CB750. The reaction was seismic. Crowds swarmed the display, their eyes wide with disbelief. The centerpiece was that magnificent engine. Its 4 gleaming header pipes a bold statement of intent. The large front disc brake looked impossibly modern. For Honda's competitors, the reaction was shock and panic. Representatives from the British manufacturers were reportedly stunned into silence. Their new triples, meant to be their saviors, suddenly looked dated before they'd even launched. They still had pushrod engines, drum brakes, and kickstarters. The Honda had an overhead cam, a disc brake, an electric start, and a 5th gear. One Triumph dealer later recounted that every single customer who initially bought a Triumph Triple eventually traded it in for a Honda. Perhaps the most telling reaction came from Kawasaki. When their engineers saw the CB750, they knew they'd been beaten to the punch. They immediately scrapped their own 750cc project and went back to the drawing board. They knew they couldn't just match the CB750, they had to surpass it. That decision would lead directly to the creation of another legend a few years later, the 903 cubic centimeter Kawasaki Z1. In early 1969, Honda brought the bike to its U.S. dealer convention in Las Vegas. The American dealers who had demanded a bigger bike were ecstatic and swarmed Honda executives with orders. Honda had conservatively projected sales of 1,500 units per year. They were soon hitting that number every single month and then scrambling to meet demand for 3,000 per month. They had priced the bike at a staggeringly competitive $1,495. It wasn't just a technological marvel, it was an affordable one, undercutting its main British rivals. The message was clear and brutal. The old guard wasn't just out-engineered, they were outmaneuvered and outpriced. The king was dethroned, and Honda now reigned. The launch of the Honda CB750 wasn't just a product release, it was an extinction-level event for the British motorcycle industry. For decades, they had operated with an engineering arrogance, believing heritage and character were enough. The CB750 proved, brutally, that riders didn't actually enjoy oil leaks, unreliable electrics, and constant wrenching. Given the choice, they overwhelmingly preferred a bike that just worked. The CB750 didn't just steal sales, it shattered the very definition of a desirable performance bike. It was smoother, more reliable, safer, and cheaper. British companies like BSA and Triumph, already struggling with outdated factories and labor issues, had no answer. An empire built over half a century crumbled in less than a decade. While it was the end of one era, it was the explosive beginning of another. The CB750 didn't just get called a superbike, it defined the term, it created the blueprint that all other manufacturers would follow: a transverse inline-four engine and a front disc brake. This layout became so common, it earned its own acronym, UJM, or Universal Japanese Motorcycle. The CB750's success ignited a fierce rivalry. Kawasaki, forced back to the drawing board, returned in 1972 with the Z1, a 903 cubic centimeter beast that was bigger and faster than the Honda Suzuki followed with its GS750 and Yamaha with the XS series. The 1970s became a golden age for motorcyclists, a horsepower war that existed because the CB750 had proven it was possible. The bike's reputation was cemented on the racetrack. In 1970, American racing legend Dick Mann piloted a specially prepared CR 750 to a shocking victory at the prestigious Daytona 200, beating purpose-built racers from Triumph and Harley-Davidson. That same year, a modified CB750 took victory at the grueling 24-hour Bol d'Or endurance race in France. These wins drove even more customers into Honda showrooms. Production of the original CB750 spanned from 1969 to 1978, with more than 400,000 built. The very first 7,400 engines, cast in rough gravity-cast cases, often called sandcast, before Honda switched to smoother die-cast tooling, are now the ones collectors prize above all others. By then, the CB750 had already rewritten the rulebook, turning reliability, performance, and everyday usability into things every rider expected a motorcycle to deliver. More than 50 years after it first stunned the world, the legacy of the Honda CB750 is undeniable. It's a machine that holds a special place in history, not just for what it was, but for what it created. It gave birth to the superbike. It established the universal Japanese motorcycle template, a formula so successful it still influences bike design today. Its significance is recognized far beyond motorcycling. It was included in the Guggenheim Museum's The Art of the Motorcycle exhibit as one of the most important motorcycles ever made. The early models are now prized collector's items, fetching huge sums at auction. But the bike spirit lives on in the millions of reliable, high-performance motorcycles that have followed in its footsteps. Even today, Honda honors its legacy with the recent CB750 Hornet. Though the new bike features a parallel twin engine, it aims to capture the same spirit of affordable, accessible fun that made the original so beloved. The 1969 Honda CB750 was more than just metal, rubber, and oil. It was a statement from a company that refused to accept the status quo. It proved that performance and reliability weren't mutually exclusive. It democratized speed, bringing a level of sophistication previously reserved for exotic racing machines to the average rider. It single-handedly ended the reign of one motorcycle empire and launched another. It was and remains the machine that changed motorcycling forever. Its story is one of incredible foresight, engineering genius, and perfect timing. It's a machine that truly earned the title of game changer. But what do you think was its single most revolutionary feature? Was it the silky smooth power of the four-cylinder engine, the game-changing safety of the front disc brake, or the simple democratic convenience of the electric starter? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this ride through motorcycle history, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the machines that changed the world. So, until next time, ride safe, ride hard, and we'll see you in the next one.